Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Monkey Wrench. I'm Kelly, the monkey with the wrench. Today I'm in a very good mood and I want to say thank you. I have no idea how or why, but I posted a short yesterday that got over 25,000 views and it's still going up. And in the last 12 hours I got almost 50 subscribers. I just checked again a minute ago and I got 3 more in the last 5 minutes, so I have no idea why, but thank you. You guys rock. So today we're going to be working on this new zero turn. This is a Toro Timecutter. It is the SS 4225. It's a 42-inch deck. It has 22 horsepower Kohler twin. It's a commercial twin. It's a really good engine. I actually really do like these. It's the KV series. And I was on, I don't use Facebook, don't like it. I have Twitter, which is Monkey Wrench, by the way, if you want me on Twitter. I was on the app called Offer Up the other day, which I peruse through, I don't know, once or twice a day, looking for very specific things. Because if I'm looking for something very specific, it might take me 3 to 6 months to find it. But as long as I check every day, I usually do. So I was on the app looking at whatever kind of mowers were for sale and available. And I touched this ad, and the ad said it was 75 bucks. So I didn't even think about it. And I don't drive, you guys know that. So I messaged the guy on the app. And I said, I'll take it. I'll pay you extra if you'll deliver it to me here in my, at my home. And of course the guy thought, oh, here's another person trying to rip me off. And I said, listen, I have a YouTube channel, which is what I tell everybody when I say you need to deliver it because I don't drive. I said, go check out my YouTube channel. You'll understand. And if you're interested, you can deliver it to me. I'll pay you extra. So he hit me up about an hour later, said he subscribed, watched some of my videos, and he was happy to bring it to me. He did not charge me extra for delivery. He just brought it to me. Sight unseen. I didn't even ask him what was wrong with it because I don't care. I make content for you guys, and 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, when a zero turn goes down, it's not... Well, let's just put it this way. It's not anything important. When I say that, what I mean is I can literally take the motor out of this Troy-Bilt Bronco if I need it to, which you'll see in another video that I just filmed yesterday. This has a 17-horse twin Kohler. This is the SV series. But they have the same shaft, length, and diameter. And I can actually take that motor, which is now running perfectly because I fixed it in the last video, and I can strap that on here. Now, it's true, I will lose 5 horsepower, but these box store zero turns, they don't have anything like the power of, say, my Gravely or my Hustler. They're not built the same. These are a cheaper version. There's nothing you can do about that. This thing looks good. It doesn't have any rust on it or anything like that. And I thought, you know what? Even if the motor was completely shot, I can get a motor for this thing for under 100 bucks and repower it. And it would make a good video for you guys. So he brings it to me. I looked at it. There was no... I didn't even look at it. He had it on the trailer. I walked out, shook his hand, thanked him for bringing it to me, handed him the money, and then I looked at the machine. I didn't care. It doesn't matter. So what I do know right off the bat is he started apologizing. He said, I don't understand what happened, but all of a sudden I cannot push the mower. I cannot free row it. So I tried to explain to him why. He didn't really care. He cleans out people's barns and things like that. He does, like if somebody moves house or whatever, they pay him to clean out the barn or the garage or whatever, and that's where this came from. So I have a new supply of machines as well because now, from now on, whenever he finds a machine, he's gonna let me know first, and I'm gonna buy it off of him to make you guys more videos. So I want to go through with that real quick, why the wheels wouldn't turn. I also know that we have one front tire that is flat. Now I don't know if that will hold air. He says that the guy he was emptying out the house for had moved a year ago, and this was sitting in the garage. This one's actually off the rim. So I don't know whether they'll hold air, whether they just lost air over the last year of sitting, or whether we're going to need to put some, that one's got air in it, or whether we're going to need to put some tubes in those front tires. But either way, tubes are cheap. That's no big deal. Let's check this last tire. Oh, it's perfect. Okay, good. And he didn't put air in the tires. He didn't even bother. I told him not to bother for that price. Don't worry about a thing. Just get it here. So the first thing that I noticed, and I don't know where that battery got to. I don't know. It's around here somewhere. But the battery was actually broken. Let me pause this. I'm looking around because I'm working on so many machines at once. That's my battery that I had in there so I could work on that yesterday. And I forgot I didn't take this one out. So when I looked at this first, I could see this battery is actually broken. The terminal's broken off of it. And I'm not even going to try to salvage it. Don't care. But he said what he knew about it was it needed a battery and it needed a starter, because here's the starter. Somebody took the starter off. And in the picture, this cowling was off, the top cowling. So needs a starter, needs a battery. That's all he knew about it. My guess is it's going to need a carb job, a carb cleaning. The engine itself looks really clean. I have no idea what we're going to find when we get into that carburetor. But I did spin the engine. I took the cowling off. It's not bolted back down, so I got to get new bolts for that. So I took that off, and I spun the engine by hand, and it turns, and it feels like it has compression. So because usually when you buy a used zero turn, the engines go before the steering pumps, the hydraulic pumps, I don't expect any problems with the steering and the drive system in this. Those pumps will run a very long time. I have rebuilt them before. It's a little bright and very windy. But really, unless somebody was driving this thing commercially, you know, cutting 30, 40, 50 lawns a week, I don't think there's going to be much of anything wrong with this, because when I look at it, it's not all torn up. The paint's not chipped. There's not a ton of scratches all over the black plastic everywhere. The black plastic's not broken. None of the levers are bent. The only thing that's messed up is it's missing the grass catch chute on the side. But those are just plastic. People step on them, all that kind of stuff. When I look around this thing, I don't see any dents. I don't see any rust. I don't see any kind of issues that tell me that this thing was beaten up. So the chances are, and that motor looks really clean. I don't see any oil on the deck, nothing. So when you're looking at actually putting money out on something, those are the things that I look for. And I find that if a motor was kept inside of a garage, under a carport, and there's not rust on it, everything looks clean. It's been sitting a long time. We already know the carburetor is going to be an issue. Some flat tires. More than likely what happened was an electrical issue. Maybe the starter solenoid went bad. And because of that, they didn't want to fix it. They didn't know how. It just sat. I've had that happen before, where I've bought a zero turn for 50 bucks and it was a $15 solenoid. In this case, the starter is stuck in the open position. The Bendix is forced out. So I bought a new starter. That's what we're going to do today. It was 50 some dollars. I bought the new starter. So right now, I'm going to spare you. I'm going to install the battery. I think you know how to do that. Negative to negative, positive to positive. Then I'm going to put on the starter, and we're going to give this thing a spin and a shoot and see if she's got life in her. But because it's in such good shape on the outside, my guess is that the pumps are good. My guess is that there was something that caused the man not to be able to go out and just turn the key and start it on. And when it didn't start, it just sat, because they didn't want to pay hundreds of dollars to have it fixed. So let's get the battery in it. Let's get the starter on. I'll show you that real quick. There's only 2 bolts and 1 wire. And let's see if this thing will bark. So real quickly, like, if you have one of these Toro Timecutters and you want to push it, say it broke down, it ran out of gas, you need to get it back to your trailer, back to your garage. On the back side, right here, I hope you can see what I'm pointing at, there's a lever. And this lever will come, you lift it up and pull it out when you want to drive. Same thing on this side, you lift it up and pull it out. And that will make your drive pumps work again. When you want to free roll it, and there's a sticker, you push it back in and lock it in place on both sides, and that disengages the pumps so that the wheels will spin. But as you can see, it still won't move. That's because it has an electric brake. In this case, he locked up the wheels and didn't know why, but that was because the battery was completely dead, completely disconnected. So if you let this thing sit in your garage for 6 months during the winter, the battery dies and you can't free roll it and you don't know why, it's because your battery's dead. So I put in a new battery, I turned on the key. You hear that? Now let's do that again. You hear that sound? That's the electric brake engaging. When the arms are out in the lock position, the electric gauge and brakes engages, and when you push those arms in, it disengages. And now the front wheels are dead. The front wheels are out of air, but now I can push this thing around. So if you have an issue where you cannot push your machine, you can't free roll it, that's why. Let me just see. See, now I can free roll it. And when your wheels aren't out of air, it's a lot easier to free roll. Now going around this top plastic cowling, there are going to be screws. One here, couple in here, blah, blah, blah. We're going to take off the air cover. And like I said, somebody already took out the screws. My oil level is good, it's at full. It's dark, but it's not black. So we're not going to worry about that right now. I'm going to take off this cowling. Don't forget that your fuel pump is attached to the cowling. So just kind of let it hang. The fuel lines on this look like they're in good shape, so they're probably going to stay for now. When I look underneath of here, I don't see any kind of fluffy nests, mud daubers, any crap like that. I just see the normal little surface rust and dust. Our starter's right here, and all it has on it, in this case, our power wire is here at the bottom, and we have 2 grounds going to the top. So real quick, oh, this one's even loose. I'm going to take that out. Now our grounds are off with our bolt, and we might be missing a bolt, which is fine. I'll just have to run up to the hardware store and get one. All I have to do now is take off the power wire and see if I can find a bolt, and then we're going to bolt the new starter on. Now I want you to remember, whenever you're taking a starter off, many times over my career, I've just taken a wrench and tried to take that nut off the post, and the post starts twisting inside of the starter and rips the wires out, and it's no good. So if you're taking a good starter off and you want to make sure that doesn't happen, use a wrench, a second wrench. They actually have 2 nuts on them in most cases. Put your second wrench underneath, use your top wrench on the top bolt, Sorry you can't see. Hold one while you loosen the other. They actually sandwich the wires together, and that way you don't rip out the post. Now our power wire's off. That's going in the, well, I'll probably check it, see if it can be cleaned for another time. But in the meantime now, where our starter bolt's on, right here there's 2 holes for bolts, and I've only got 1 hole. Oh, I did. Haha. I saw an extra bolt laying around here somewhere. Let's just check and make sure it's the right one. It feels like it's going to be. And when I put it up against the other bolt, it looks like it's the correct bolt. So all I'm going to do is take the new starter, attach the power wire, put these 2 bolts in place, and let's see what we got. Now there's only so much I can actually show you with my camera set up and film, but I'm going to film this anyway just in case. Ow! I got the new starter. Now the only thing that I know for sure is different from this starter from the original, or the one that was on it, is that the one that's on it, or was on it, had 9 teeth. 9 teeth here. And the new starter came with 10 teeth. Now according to all the research I did, it says that it's compatible. It says that they've changed it to a 10-tooth situation. All I can do is hope that that's true and attempt to put this on. They usually don't lie about stuff like that, and I see no reason why it wouldn't fit, but I guess we're going to find out in real time. In the meantime, I'm going to get my starter wire here, put it on, and when you're doing these wires, you may not watch me do it on here all the time, but it is important that all of your connections be very, very tight. Now I'm turning this and I'm watching the stud to make sure it's not turning inside. I want to make sure that's really tight. Now we've got all of our ground wires, and this is actually an engine hoist, so this will go in the up position. There's only one way for the starter to go on. If you look here, you can see that this side of the starter comes out just past the body of the starter, and this side stays back behind the body of the starter. So you want to make sure that your stud walls are on this side. They come out just further than your starter. That way they hold it in the correct position. And all we're doing here is putting this bolt in. Sometimes it's fun because even I can't see, so don't feel bad if you can't. As Tara would say, you need octopus fingers. Sorry if my head's in your way. But you just got to find the holes. Now I see a lot of channels that will attempt to do this with the plastic cowling in the way. I don't know whether it's because they're lazy and they don't want to spend an extra few minutes taking it off. But I can tell you right now, even if the other person had not, even if the other person had not taken the cowling off already, I would have, because it makes life so much easier when you're trying to line stuff up and that big plastic shield isn't in your face. You can barely see as it is, so making sure that you can see is important. It really doesn't take that long. And also the other thing is, I have gotten in machines from customers. I have gotten machines that I've purchased like this, and we don't have such a big problem here because I actually live in a city. But if you're living out in the country, in rural areas, people keep their machines in barns. You get little furry creatures that like to come up underneath the cowling in the wintertime and make their nest for spring. and you won't even see that there'll be a whole nest in here blocking this up, and your motor will overheat and you'll blow a head gasket or something along those lines because you never even thought, hey, there's a little rat's nest or a little mouse nest in there. So it's always good to take that cowling off every spring anyway, to make sure that you don't have any people or any little furry critters that have set up house and are living rent-free inside of your machine. And I think I made that. No, did we find the hole? Yeah, I think we found the hole. Now I know I said I was going to keep this up, and I will, but I wanted this to be loose enough to find the other hole. So let's go ahead and socket this down, sock it down. If for some reason the gear on the top with the teeth does not mesh up with the flywheel, you have two choices. If you purchased the starter, especially on Amazon, you can return it and try to order from another company, try to find one that has 9 teeth on it. You may or may not be able to. Make sure that this is in the up position again. Or you can actually buy a gear kit for these. I've made videos on that in the past, where you can pop this gear off in this Bendix and replace it, like if you had plastic gear and the gear teeth got messed up. And it's not very expensive. Now that's not going to stay right now, and right now I want to make sure that the starter works. I can adjust that back up later. So our wires are hooked back up. Everything's good. I am not going to put the plastic cowling back on it right now because I don't know what else I may have to do to this thing. It does have fuel in it. Woo, that'll get you high. Don't do that. Woo, I shouldn't have done that. I didn't smell it at first, so I stuck my nose in there. It doesn't smell bad, but man, it was strong. I just took in a whole whiff of that stuff. So I'm going to put my dipstick back in. That's out of the way. It won't hurt anything that the fuel pump is in a different position because it still pumps fuel. That's not a problem. So I'm going to leave that for the moment. I'm going to back you up and get some starting fluid just in case, and we're going to see if this thing will start. Okay, now I cheated and I hit the key and the motor stopped turning. Now the teeth on the starter, they are working just fine, but this thing is barely turning and now it's come to a stop. So I don't know whether it's a half-dead battery, which it should be because I just charged that, or if we have vapor lock. And you don't know anything about this thing because it's been setting for so long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the spark plugs. First take off the boots. I'm going to remove the spark plugs on both sides in case for some reason there's fluid in the piston that's locking it up. That will come out. Now, normally I wouldn't bother showing you how to take out a spark plug, but in this case, if it is vapor locked, when I loosen this, you could see stuff shoot out from behind the spark plug, and I wouldn't want to miss that. I'm not sure why. I don't think it's vapor locked. I think it's just somehow the battery's half dead. Yeah, that plug's not even wet, and it looks brand new. I'm going to take out the other side real quick, and we're going to turn the starter a few times, and there'll be no compression at all, which means in the very least the motor will spin. If there's anything in the chamber that's not supposed to be there, which is usually only comes in a gravity situation, not a fuel pump situation. This one looks good too. Let's give it a couple of spins, make sure nothing shoots out of there, and make sure that we have the ability to spin, because it could be a decompression valve, a decompression release. It could just be a dead battery. But it just does not want to spin. The starter's trying to do its job. The motor is just completely unturnable. Now that could be because the Bendix on the starter is still popped up. Let me tap that down and see if I can turn this thing by hand. We may have a fried motor. Okay, I ended up having to take the starter back off loose enough to get the Bendix to go back down where it needed to be clear the flywheel. I tried turning it by hand and it won't budge. It's just locked. So I'm going to have to pop this off, and in this case it's not held down by screws, it's held on by plastic clips. I'm going to pop this cover off without trying to break it. Try and leverage across here and at the clip. I'm going to take that off somewhere it's not going to break, and I'm going to have to get a breaker bar and a socket to fit here, and I'm going to attempt to turn this backwards the opposite way to an unlocked position, and we're going to see if we can get this thing to spin around. I can't find my breaker bar, so I'm going to use my torque wrench. This motor spins clockwise, I believe. So what I'm going to attempt to do is go backwards here and see. Now, as soon as I did, the bolt that holds the flywheel on just spun right off. I mean, it didn't break, it just loosened up. So I'm not going to be able to go backwards. I hate going forward because I've sheared those bolts off before, but I'm going to try it with just a little leverage and see if I can get it to spin past whatever's causing the problem in the piston. And nope, it's just tightening up, and I'm going to shear it off. So the only thing I can do at this point is pop the heads. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to disconnect the fuel pump, which is easy peasy. Just going to unbolt it from the cowling. I'm going to take off this rear bumper, and I'm going to pull the heads. If the piston is stuck and seized in there, it may not be able to be fixed, but we're not going to know until we pull it apart. So I'm going to take the bolts out of that rear bumper, and let's see what we can see. Alright, now I'm going to take off the heads. I've taken off the rear bumper, and I'm taking off the fuel filter. And I'm just going to kind of push that up out of the way maybe. It's going to be a pain in my tits. So let's disconnect that from the carburetor, just get it out of the way. Anyway, I'm going to take out the 4 bolts here in the valve cover first so that we can see what it looks like inside of there. And then we'll probably have to take the tins off. If I pull the valve covers off and I don't really see anything sticking out at me, a bent valve or something, I'm going to take both valve covers off. And if that's the case, then I'm going to go ahead and remove the 4 bolts that hold the motor to the frame and take this motor off of here, pull the tins, and we'll see what the inside looks like. But let's start with the easy. This is a T30, by the way. These are T30 Torx bits on the valve cover. I see a little bit of oil had came out of the bottom there. Let's see if I can get it off without a screwdriver. Nope. So let's grab it and see. I'm not worried about messing up the gasket, because in the very least I will be putting new gaskets on. But what you don't want to do is bend the cover. So get a good spot for it, but don't bend the cover itself, because you'll never get it flat, and then you'll forever be trying to put double and triple gaskets and sealer and all kinds of stuff in there to stop oil leaks. So just be careful with that. Now these don't feel off or wrong. Everything looks like it's in the right position. Both of our push rods are in place. So let me go ahead and pull the other side. See what it looks like. If it's a messed up piston that scored the walls of the jug, it has to be honed out and get bigger rings and all that crap. I'm not going to do that. I will literally look for another motor that fits on there.